But yeah, there is a secret. And you know this. There is a secret. And everyone is looking for like a quick fix, or they're looking for the next fad, the latest fad. But there is a secret, and it's not sexy at all. It's not what people want to hear. But let me tell you, after 20 years, the secret is to really fall in love with the process.
Welcome back for another episode of the Beyond the Scale podcast. I am so excited about today's guest. We have Diana Keuilian. Welcome, Diana, to the show.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yes, so I've been so excited about this episode with you because you have done so many amazing things over the last 6 years that I've known you, being a part of Fit Body Bootcamp, not just only with Fit Body, but the Recipe Hacker, your cookbooks, just your YouTube channel. We refer back to that all the time for recipes in our household. So for our listeners, Diana is a certified personal trainer and nutrition coach. She's been doing this for over 20 years. She's published 3 books on healthy recipes and fat loss. And she's been an instrumental part of building the brand of Fit Body Bootcamp and Trulean Nutrition, one of our sister companies. With all of your experience and expertise in the fitness industry, what inside scoop can you give our listeners and secrets to just staying fit? Is there a secret?
Yes. Well, that was an awesome introduction, and I feel super old with the 20 years, but it's true. So I'm going to own it. But yeah, there is a secret. And you know this. There is a secret. And everyone is looking for like a quick fix, or they're looking for the next fad, the latest fad. But there is a secret, and it's not sexy at all. It's not what people want to hear. But let me tell you, after 20 years, the secret is to really fall in love with the process. It's not about the end weight. It's not about the after picture. It is actually about falling in love with the process of fitness. And we hear, the term lifestyle, like it's all about a healthy fitness lifestyle, but that's the fact.
Yeah. Just falling in love with the journey. I love that. It's hard because, like you said, people do want that quick fix. Like, right. I want to lose 20 pounds and I want to lose it now.
Yep.
And then you easily get frustrated if you have a setback.
Exactly, which there will be setbacks. But when you and I've written about this in the past, and I feel like I always talk about this, but when you're living in the momentum of the health and wellness, like being your focus, this feeling comes over you. That's the feeling for me when I'm living in it and I'm working my meal plan and I'm doing my workouts, I'm getting my rest, when I'm doing all the things that do give you that result, there's a feeling that comes over you. Mm-hmm. And when you can identify that and then just live for that feeling, and forget about the weight, forget about all of the things that will line up when you do this,
right? But
they're not the point. It's almost like when you focus on those things, it's never gonna be sustained.
Exactly, and it helps build momentum. It's like we talk about stacking wins all the time at Fit Body. It's like you're stacking those wins. You start doing your fitness, you start doing your nutrition, you start feeling good, and then it just stacks up from there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But it's not a sexy answer.
It's
like not. Falling in love with the process, but it's the truth.
Right. It is. It can be boring, but staying consistent is always the key. So you talk about in the Recipe Hacker about like avoiding gluten, avoiding sugar. What's your opinion on that for like fat loss?
Yeah. And that, how should I eat is such a big topic. And again, we see how the media really manipulates people with like, here's the latest diet or here's the latest supplement that you need. And again, it kind of goes back to, I feel like we all know the answer, and it is, whole foods. Very simply, like cutting out the packaged foods. Something that I think way more women need to do is prioritize protein. So like making a point to have, the correct amount of protein in every single meal, making sure that the food on your plate are whole foods. And then for me, and I think for most people with fat loss, it's really controlling carbs, not going overboard, even on those healthy carbs, the sweet potatoes and, those starches that we love, controlling those while prioritizing protein.
Yeah, I love that. And like the packaged foods, the sugar is what always gets me. I've been really dialed into sugar content lately because I have a 4-year-old and almost 2-year-old, and snacks all day long. That's all my son says is snacks. Yep. And so I'm looking at the labels, and even just the other day, I picked up a green juice, like one of those green goddess drinks, and it says, you know, has all these vital nutrients and it's good for, no, it's not. It has like 45 grams of sugar. Yep. I'm not giving that to my 2-year-old. He's going to be wired.
Yeah.
So.
And that's such a, like an interesting time when your kids are that little and they're starting to eat the solid foods. That's when I got into cooking because I started reading about nutrition and it was like, sugar is so bad. Right. And then the foods that are marketed to kids that are convenient for moms, they're packed full of sugar. Yes. So that is like, you're doing the right thing by looking at all these, you know, labels and really even starting to teach your kids. Yeah. Like, hey, we're not going to eat this one because look at all this sugar. Right. You know?
Well, it's just hard to explain that to a toddler who doesn't understand. But that leads me to my next question that I did want to ask you today was, what are some things that you've done as you've raised your family? You've been doing this for so long now. Your kids are older now, but what have you done like in that journey, you and Bedros, to help your kids eat healthier and just like, I don't know, shift their mindset around like what's healthy and what's not?
Yeah. And this, again, I feel like all of my answers today are not going to be sexy, but it's like you live the lifestyle and they see you. Right. And when they're really little, you can obviously have way more control over what they eat because you're putting it on their plate and you're cutting it up and you're putting in their lunch and all of that. And so you have more control. I remember when my kids were in preschool, when they were really little, I would make them a green juice, like a green smoothie with protein in it every morning and put it in their sippy cup. And at first they didn't like it. This is the only time I've like used bribery, but it was like, if you drink this by the time we get to school, I'm going to give you a quarter. And so every day I would give Andrew a quarter because he was like, all right, this is a challenge now. I'm going to drink it. So when they're little, you know, you set the rules. Right. As they get older, there is a period like when they were in elementary school where it's like they see what their friends are eating. They're not really interested in working out or exercise yet. And again, it just kind of went back to, we would make family workouts was just part of our life. And when the kids were little, it was, we would do it on our driveway because we didn't have a gym. Bedros and I would do our sprints and we would do our weights in the garage, and they would just be running around and like playing their bikes and doing their little plasma cars or whatever. And then as they got older and we had our own gym, we would take them. And so it's like, we always were like, we knew we wanted art to work out away from the house. Right. Because it's like, you know, you transition, you're in a different headspace, you make time for it. And then for us, like gym time, like we almost every single evening we go to the gym together as a family. And again, when they were younger, it was like Andrew would bring a skateboard and Chloe would like, you know, do her gymnastics. Yeah. And as they got older, then they started wanting to mimic us. Like, okay, what are we doing? We're doing shoulder presses? Okay.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And now my son's 17 and he is like completely dedicated to his workout routine. My daughter is 15 and she's really starting to get into it. So her and I do a workout together. So it's just, the answer is you model it for them. Yeah. And then it's so cool when you start to see them take it on. Like it's literally part of them to do a workout every day. It's in their DNA now. Yeah. Because they've done it since they were like tiny little, even when they just saw us doing it, and now that they're doing it. And recently my son told us, he was like, you know, thank you for teaching me about fitness, because he can connect how he feels after a workout. You know, he can be having a crappy day. You're in high school and, you know, crush a workout and then feel a different way, you know, and to be able to connect those dots when you're so young it's a gift that we can give our kids.
That's great. And today I think teenagers, they have more pressure than I even did 15 years ago. It's with the media and just all of these things thrown at them at such a young age. Right. Like I hear kids now saying, you know, where they want to go to college when they were freshmen in high school. It's like you have that pressure. And so having the outlet for fitness, that's so key. Yeah. And you've changed, like not necessarily changed, but you created that blueprint for your family from such a young age with your children. Like this is the way of life that mom and dad live. And they're just now modeling that. It's just like a part of their daily routine. Like you said, it's habitual.
Like it's good for us too, because when somebody is modeling you, watching everything you do. And you'll see this more as your kids get older. It's like, oh, shoot, they watch everything.
Right.
And it makes you reflect, and it makes you really take everything you do into consideration. And like for Baders and I recently, we're like, you know what? We're going to stop drinking alcohol. Our kids are getting older. It's like, does this make my life better? Do I want my kids to do this? And it's like, well, maybe not, And so they're giving us a gift as well, just for being that mirror for us.
Yeah, definitely. It helps provide clarity when you see them do something that you may not recognize.
Yeah.
Like even my daughter, she'll say things sometimes, and my husband and I will look at each other like, oh, I say that. Like
Yeah,
she's saying that because I say that. Maybe I shouldn't say that. So.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what does your fitness routine look like now? What do you do in your daily life now?
Yeah. So I am a runner. I've always been a runner. Like I do marathons. I love running. So that's that's my default. And I have to put a lot of intention behind training.
Okay.
Doing resistance training, which my good friend, Dr. Gabrielle Lyon, tells me, muscles are the organ of longevity, and it's all about building those muscles. And I've weight trained for 20 years, so I totally am behind that. But I actually have a fitness coach, and he gives me my workouts for the week, and I have to report back and be like, I did this to get lift 5 times a week.
That's awesome, having that level of accountability.
Yes. I think it's necessary,
yes.
Especially because life gets so busy and crazy. And, I'll do fun workouts with my kids and things, but to really make it part of your job.
Right.
Got to go and train.
Right. And to have structure. That's something I've found over the years is I love to run too. I don't run as much now with the kids being so little and they hate being in the stroller, which is just awful.
Do you have a double stroller?
We do, but when they get in it together, they hit one another and pick on one another. I'm like, stop, I just want to run. Yeah. But anyways, over the years, I have found I can't just go for a run one day and then sling around some weights the other. Yeah. I have to have a plan.
Right.
And that's one thing I love about Fit Body Boot Camp is that the coaches are so good about structuring the workouts weeks in advance. So it doesn't matter really what day you're showing up. You're getting that full body workout and you're working what you need to be working that day, and they've programmed it for you. You don't have to think about it. So that's one reason why I love Fit Body so much.
Yeah. And when my kids were younger and I would drop them off at school, I would go straight to boot camp. I would do my workout, back when I wasn't actually working out with them. Yeah. But they do all the work for you.
Yeah. So you have published 3 books, Recipe Hacker. Tell us a little bit about the evolution of that and how you came up with that or where that started.
So, it comes back to my kids. Yeah. When I started transitioning my son to solid foods, I was, I just felt I was a personal trainer, but I had pretty much no background in nutrition. And I was like, what should I feed him? When you're first time mom, you want to do everything right. And I had read a statistic, I think it came out the year that he was born, that his generation was going to live shorter lives than my generation. Almost for the first time in a long time, their life expectancy is lower. And it was, whatever article I read, it was really pinning it back to nutrition. Kids are not eating the way that they should. And so I just kind of took it on myself, well, I better read everything I can about nutrition and figure out how to feed my kids. And so a lot of it was, don't buy packaged stuff, make food at home. And so then I was like, okay, I'm going to cut out gluten, sugar, soy, dairy, all of this stuff, putting recipes online for a handful of years. And then publisher reached out and did a few books doing that. Awesome. So, yeah.
I love how you have certain recipes that they taste just like something else, but it's the healthier version.
Yes.
That's the thing that I love. I love sweets, and you have so many good dessert recipes.
I love sweets too, obviously.
Yes. You have great dessert recipes.
And that's always a challenge, and like a fun challenge for me where it's I love food. And when I was young, I was very overweight. I didn't know anything about nutrition. I loved to bake. I would bake junior high, every day I would bake and full of sugar and butter and everything. And so I have that love for food and flavor. And so that challenge of okay, I want to use all healthy things, but I want the result to be exactly like what I grew up on.
Right. Well, and you talk about cutting out alcohol. I would much rather have a nice dessert every night while I'm watching TV before we go to bed than a glass of wine. Yes. Any day.
Exactly.
So I want to shift shift the conversation a little bit because you are going back to school right now, studying psychology.
I am.
Talk to me about what prompted you to do that and take on like this next step in your journey.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about it. I'm about a little over a year into my master's program. It's so funny. Like, it's a big shift when you look at it like, okay, she was in fitness and wrote recipes and now she's, becoming a therapist. But I guess for me, it just feels like a progression. I mentioned I was overweight as a kid, and when I was about 15, it was when I was like, okay, I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to figure out how to take care of my body. And I feel like ever since then, I love personal development. And it's like whatever stage I've been at when I was young, and it was like, fitness, I'm figuring out fitness and it's changing my life. And then it was, I want to share this with people. And then with, having my kids and recipes, like, okay, I'm going to figure this out for me to develop and for me to progress. And then I have this need to share. And so, getting to this middle-aged stage of my life, I've done a lot of therapy and just that emotional work, and it's been transformative and exciting. And it was like, okay, well, now I want to share this with people.
Yeah.
And so for me, that was going back to school, getting the education, and I'm going to be getting my license and then sharing it.
That's fantastic. And so you're going to be a licensed therapist then. So that is fantastic. And I think that the mindset portion really does go along with the fitness portion as well. Like that, talk to us about like that mind-body connection that you hear about.
Yeah. Well, the mind and the body are so connected, but so many times we can feel kind of disconnected from it and kind of like, what is happening in my body? What is happening with my emotions? And that's the piece that I've been so passionate about, how emotions and really negative self-beliefs get caught in our limbic system. And so the type of therapist that I'm training to be is an EMDR therapist, where we utilize bilateral stimulation to really process negative beliefs out of our limbic system, which I don't need to get too in depth about it. But, our body holds memories and traumas and beliefs, and these dictate a lot of our self-limiting behaviors, self-sabotage.
Yeah.
We see that so much when we are coaching people in fitness. We see self-sabotage, and they see it and they feel it, or where people feel stuck at a certain place in their life. With your mind, your thoughts, you can't access it. You can't connect it to stop.
Yeah.
Because it's caught in your limbic system.
So it's like your past experiences and tragedy that may have happened 10, 15 years ago. It's affecting your present. It's affecting your ability to go further in your fitness journey or your health journey, or have that mind-body connection.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yes. And this is what I'm so passionate about.
Yeah, that's going really deep then.
Yes, but for all of our listeners who want to know more about that, might identify with that, yes, I do have this self-sabotage, or I do have these feelings that I can't figure out to flush it out myself. EMDR therapy, look up an EMDR therapist. And what is so cool about this therapy is that it is directed by the client's own brain. There's so many different ways to be a therapist and so many different methods and, theoretical orientations that they teach you. But with EMDR, it is all directed by the client using the bilateral stimulation. The model is based on this idea, which I full-heartedly believe in, which is that the brain wants to heal. Just like our body, we get a cut, our body's going to heal, right? The brain wants to heal. And so the EMDR process, it literally just facilitates healing and helps somebody go from holding. And when I say holding a negative self-belief, you're not holding it in your mind. You don't actually think negative. Well, most of us don't hold intellectual negative thoughts about ourselves. Yeah. It's stored in the limbic system in the body. The body believes it based on traumas and different situations that have happened to us. And the therapist is just a facilitator to literally allow that person to flush these things out of their system, and the brain brings them to a positive belief about themselves naturally. It gives me goosebumps, and it's I can't even believe that I'm gonna be able to be doing this with people.
It's so amazing because for our listeners, this is probably something that they first don't know anything about, or they've never even thought about. And they might be holding on to some sort of grief or tragedy that's happened in their past that could be affecting the way they live their life now.
Yes.
Yeah. That is
so many. I think every single human on the planet needs to do EMDR, and it's not a long process. It's such an outcome-driven process that for people like us, where it's like, we want to get things done, and we're very like outcome-driven, those of us who are in fitness, and it's like, we're not going to sit there on a couch and talk for 10 years. No, you might do 8 sessions, and you're going to flush out this thing that's been holding you back.
Right. And therapy gets a bad rep sometimes because people say like, oh, I don't want to tell someone else my problems.
Right.
And they don't realize like the true benefit that they can get from that.
And that's another cool thing about EMDR is that the process is happening within your own mind, and you can say as little or as much as you want to the therapist, which is another reason that it's so stinking cool.
Yeah, because just like sometimes I've been to therapy a few times, and there was one therapist I just did not connect with. And I left there thinking, why did I tell her this information?
Yeah.
Like, I hope she doesn't go repeat that. I know she wouldn't.
She can't. She will lose her license.
I know. So you have a new book coming out in the near future, which is kind of on the topic of psychology a little bit. Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I'm really excited. I did a book with Dr. Benjamin Bickman. So he had a book come out last year called Why We Get Sick. So he is in a very different world than me. He's a scientist, he's a professor, and he studies insulin in the body, and specifically insulin resistance. And so I think for most of us lay people, we just think like you either have diabetes or you don't, and there's kind of no in between. But what his research has shown is that most of us have some degree of insulin resistance, which means our bodies are needing to produce more insulin to get the same effect. And that is leading us down a road to essentially disease and diabetes. So his book was such a hit, and it's all about the science behind it. And so he needed to do a follow-up book to tell people, well, how do I live to avoid this, right? Yeah. And so the name of the book is How to Not Get Sick, and it's a lifestyle implementation guide. So I did about 75 recipes, and I did a whole exercise section, and then he kind of condensed the science and reinforced the science to, that was in his original book.
That's fantastic, because I think too many people, they wait until they get to that point that they can't go back. They can't undo some of the choices they made in their life. And here you are telling us like, no, you might be on the path to that right now. Like, here are some things that you need to dial in on to fix so that doesn't happen.
Yeah. And unfortunately, the society that we live in, it is designed for us to be sick and fat.
Yep.
We have to be so conscious of our decisions and so intentional about the outcome that we're going to get in our life for our health, for our fitness, for our mental health. We have to fight for that every day, because the way that our modern life is set up, it's not set up for us to be happy and healthy and fit.
No, not at all. We're in a sick care society versus a healthcare. Like, our healthcare systems are not set up for healthcare. It's sick care. And even me personally, it's like when you go to the doctor and your physician is 50 pounds overweight, like, you don't respect them as much as you would someone who's taking care of yourself.
Right. And they probably smoke and they drink, and it's like, you're not living it. How are you telling me?
Right.
Yeah. So we have to fight for ourselves. And, going back to our kids, us fighting for ourselves is setting that example that our kids are going to follow. Yes. Because whatever we tell them, like, they don't listen, they just watch.
Right. Yeah. So. It's my husband always says things are caught, not taught. So anything we do, like those little people in our house, they're watching us. They're catching on. Yeah. Well, I can't wait to read your book. I can't wait to learn all of the things from you. I got incredible value from this episode today. I know that our listeners will as well. Where can our audience find you?
So I am going to be launching a podcast. It's going to start in April of this year. Ooh. And it is all going to be about personal development. So it's the stuff that I'm learning in my studies and the things that I know about how to really just develop your potential.
I love it. Well, Diana, thank you so much for being here with me today. And that's all we have for today's episode.
Awesome. Thank you so much.